Con ustedes, el director Ang Lee.
Hello.
¿Listo? ¿Todavía? Ok. Muchas gracias. Muy bien. Vamos a comenzar con la primera pregunta. Ya está la primera pregunta, acá está. Ok, Edmundo Bastarrachera, de revista Algarabía.
Señor Jandy, buenos días.
Si gustas pararte para que te pueda ver. Gracias.
Mi pregunta es la siguiente.
No está oyendo.
Espérame un segundo.
Sí, claro.
Listo.
¿Ok?
Ok. Listo. Adelante.
El personaje Pi lee 3 libros. De Julio Verne, Dostoyevsky y Albert Camus, que son La Maravilla, La Pasión.
Puedes decirlo seguido, más rápido.
Y el pesimismo.
Gracias.
Mi pregunta es, dentro de su cine y sus películas, ¿qué se privilegia? ¿La maravilla, la pasión o el pesimismo? Gracias.
I forgot what to say. Buenos días. Actually, that's a profound question. To be the first question of the day. I think in the book, it told us have faith is better than not having faith, whether you believe in God or you're an atheist, like the books you mentioned. But the worst is agnostic, in between. My take on the material and then went on to make movies, maybe because I'm Easterner, grew up as a Chinese, I believe in a mysticism. It's unknown. I think pi represents the essence of life, which is chaos. It's unknown. Only God knows the answer. So he's always looking. The whole journey is looking. From his childhood, he started believing different religions. Then that was, as a metaphor, there's a zoo of paradise, the innocence. And that was disillusioned by his father's lesson, because everything is a reflection of your own emotion, nothing else. If you don't believe that, you're not going to survive. So at that point, he started to pick on existential books. Now the whole story, the material is a metaphor for our lives, our struggle for believing something, for our emotional connection to the unknown, which is epitomized by that journey that we took by the ocean. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know if that's an answer. And I think for something you don't know, you cannot prove. You search and search, but still you cannot find an answer. But you still have to take a leap of faith. That's what we call faith. You embrace it. Things you cannot prove, but you can test it. I think the part where he's in the ocean, on the ocean, doing the journey, I think has a taste of God. When I'm making the movie, I'm having a taste of God. When he's facing the tiger, such as my trainer, that facing the tiger every day in a cage, in a compound, he's facing God. When he's adrift, he is. I just hope that we have a taste of that and we examine what it is. But to me, I can give this answer in Asia very easily. I don't know if I can get by here. That people are like, so unknown, like they're very happy to embrace it. So I don't know if that's an answer, but I think just have a question that's worthwhile.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Siguiente pregunta. Una cuestión nada más. Les pido por favor a los fotógrafos que si quieren continuar sacando fotos, nada más, por favor le pueden quitar el flash, si fueran tan amables. Muchas gracias. Segunda pregunta es Shen Jiadi de CCTV. Adelante.
李安导演你好，我是中国中央电视台的记者尚佳迪，我们现在在墨西哥，很荣幸来到机会。下面李安导演你好，我是中国中央电视台记者尚佳迪，真是非常高兴能够在墨西哥跟您有一次交流的机会。我们都知道，您的电影包括卧虎藏龙，包括断背山，这些电影在墨西哥都已经是家喻户晓的。然后我就想知道这一次是不是您第一次来墨西哥？然后在这个我们讲拉丁美洲是魔幻现实主义的发源地。那么您的这部电影新电影少年派的奇幻漂流，它明显带有一些的魔幻色彩。那么像这样一部新电影，您带来墨西哥跟墨西哥观众见面，您对这个观众有什么期许？Y lo voy a repetir mi pregunta en español si se puede.
Sí, en español sería mejor en inglés. Si vas a preguntar en otro idioma, es en inglés.
No, está bien, lo voy a repetir en español para que todo el mundo lo
perfecto, muy bien, muchas gracias. Perdón, tienes toda la razón.
Bienvenido, doctor. Soy Shen Jiadi de CCTV Internacional. Tenemos aquí la chance de platicar con ustedes. Me da mucho gusto. Y ahorita todo el mundo sabe de sus películas, por ejemplo, El Tigre y el Dragón. Esta película ya está bien conocida en México. Y esta vez usted trae la nueva película, una aventura extraordinaria, que va a entregar esta nueva película al público mexicano. Y sabemos que América Latina es la tierra del realismo mágico. Y esta película nueva obviamente lleva un poco carácter de fantástico, digamos. Entonces, en ese sentido, ¿cuál es su expectación de esta nueva película en frente del público mexicano? Gracias.
This is my second time here. The first time I visited here, well, only a very big movie they're sending over here. So this is only my second time here. The first time here is the movie The Hulk. That's a big movie, even bigger than this one. And that movie was not successful anywhere except here, probably in Brazil. And here we have the only big commercial success. So I'm very thankful for that. Each time people like to say they like the Hulk, I was like, yes, there's justice for somebody who brings that movie. Somebody got it. So in some ways you remind people. He was asking me about magical realism, which is the home of it. How do I relate to that? I cannot say that I'm deeply related to that. That's where I started, but I hope the end result is the same. In my culture, the Chinese culture, especially with the pulpy, not classic literature, but public literatures, which is the hidden dragon for us. That's the secret of the path. And the Chinese are more repressed culture. In recent China, it becomes more atheist. The religion was never been the big thing for us, historically, especially now. But I hope people embrace the movie for different reasons. Yesterday, I was told some of them saw the movie, they were crying, and this is a very religious country. They embrace it for the different reason of how the Chinese are embracing it over there. It's really released there. It's very, very warm to my heart. It did better than American box office and words of mouth, the same. I think in China, Chinese culture, we embrace this kind of magical realism in different ways. We cherish, embrace, and take something we don't know, the yin and yang, the yin, as the principle of life. What we can touch and improve is a reflection of the truth. So it's really a cover-up. That's where I come from. So in some ways, when you embrace the unknown, when you show so much fear, awe, and to be inspired, and realize that's the real thing. I think in some ways that's magical. I think people here has different approach to that. I think the goal is the same. As long as you like my movie, I'm all good.
Thank you. Pregunta 3. Humberto Suárez, de Cine y Más.
Mr. Lee, good morning. Thank you for being here. It's such a great honor having you in Mexico. I read that this movie was before offered to some other directors, but they didn't accept the challenge. What makes you taking this risk, deciding filming this movie? This is my first question. And the second is, what did you saw in this young boy when you choose him among 3,000 other?
Elisabeth Shama, the actor.
The actor, yeah.
Thank you. I believe there are 3 filmmakers before me took the challenge for one reason or another. I believe it's production reasons. With this disagreement with the studio, they fall apart. So 4.5 years ago, when this is available, Fox asked me to do it. Actually, that's all it took. I read the book 10 years ago. Because a friend of mine introduced that to me, and I love the book. I introduced to my wife and my 2 kids, and we talked about it for weeks. I didn't think there was a movie, for obvious reason, for the tiger trip across the Pacific without Tom Hanks. And at the end, it's a really philosophical book. It's not about emotion. And it examines the issue of faith, spirituality. But the movie, as you know, we rely on emotional flow. It's photorealistic images. It's more or less work inside the illusion. Your focus on the picture is mandatory. So how do you examine illusion inside of the movie? It will be like a prologue under people's feet. Just my professional instinct and my intuition just tell me there's no movie. So I never read it as a movie. But when I was asked, I was intrigued. How do you craft this thing? People are actually, because I read the script from a previous filmmaker. The second story is actually in it. And I know about the budget, even I know it's going to take more, but that budget is quite significant. So it just hit me, they're actually going to do this thing. So that was enough to motivate me to take the challenge. Later on, when I thought about framing a script device that can have the older pilot tell the story, which is third person but still the same person experience through it. Well, I thought experiencing it and examining it could happen in the same movie. So I got excited. then I had this idea to do 3D. I only saw them in the 3D movies in cartoons, not even cheap horrors or action movies. So I thought, well, maybe with another dimension, maybe the whole thing will open up. The irrational number of pi that goes on and on and on. Maybe we can see the circle in another dimension. It was a naive sort of silly thought I had. I was laughing at myself. But then as things started to open up, how the water is going to play, how I'm going to immerse pi in the ocean where you can really feel how it feels. And then I thought maybe the water can be a great character itself, without Tom Hanks in the volleyball. So I got excited and I checked it. But this is a project you really have to think outside the box. Like 3Ds, thinking new cinematic language, making a movie in Taiwan, but still with Hollywood crew. So that's outside the box in itself. On and on and on. Yeah, it's a very unusual challenge. I knew that from the beginning. But about 3.5, nearly 4 years ago, I took a leap of faith, and the rest is just try to make it work.
What you saw in the boy, the young boy?
Oh, the boy. Well, that's another sign that I will make the movie. In reading the book, it's very hard to imagine what a boy looks like. He seems to be every man. He's a metaphor. It's like a fable. It's a metaphor. He's like a prophet. He's like every man. He speaks the words of wisdom. He solves all the problems that seems to be unsolvable, and you cannot prove him wrong. It's very real, but it's all fantastical. So how do you see this kind of boy? There's no 16-year-old Indian movie star, so we gotta go for the new faces. We went through 3,000 kids in India. We narrowed down to 12 of them when I met and tested each one of them in Mumbai. When I saw Suresh, I was kind of almost a done deal. I thought he looked like pie. I started to see the movie. I asked him to take his glasses off. His very deep eyes, soulful, compelling. When I give him a little bit of direction, when I asked him to tell the second story, he just devoted his whole body, every cell, into believing the whole situation. He started to tell the story at the end of class. This is an incredible talent. So with that, that's a big plot to boost around and take up the challenge. There's 3D, there's water, there's a whole lot of things, digital, animals, that you have to look realistic, and all that philosophical ending. But when I saw him, it's very encouraging. And I can spend hours telling what I went through with him to make him look like how he looked like in the film. There were 9 months drilling and shooting in Taiwan, boot camping here. There 3 months, every shot is him. Every shooting order. To the last stage, he's turning spiritual. He is pi. It's not so much about acting pi, the completion of the pi. And he's an incredible acting talent.
Thank you. Cuarta pregunta, Elizabeth Santana, de Playboy.
Hola, tras el año que duró tu producción, la postproducción de la película, ¿qué podemos esperar de ti como director de futuras películas? Y si el 3D entonces ya formará parte de tu narrativa.
How long does it take for production?
¿Puedes repetir?
Sí, el 3D ya va a formar parte de la narrativa de tus películas futuras. ¿Y qué podemos esperar de ti como director tras esta cinta?
Well, I don't think I can make this movie in 2D. Now looking back, I think finally I saw the 2D version. I still think it's a good movie, but the whole thinking process in 3D kind of thinking really helped me open up the chance of making this movie. I think 3D is a new cinematic tour, not just the movement, where you stage things, how you emphasize things, where you place things, and the volume you give to the face is actually great for drama. And the movie subject, how much you want to bring out to the audience, where do you put your subject matter and your point in relation to your point of view, actually is a new way of involving the audience into the pictures. You can actually feel you're more inside of the movie. I think it's an illusion. It's not life. It's not how we associate movie in the past, which is 2D, our eyes compensate. The lack of body, the depth. I think after this movie, I have certain feeling about 2Ds, but we just began. I'm still a novice, a student of 2Ds. I think in the future, the lighting, framing, and technically, it's going to improve so much. And more filmmakers grab on it. It'll be cheaper too. I think it will be a legitimate artistic form. So I'm very excited about this new way of looking at dramatic events. I think if I can afford, I will still try it. We know a whole lot about 2D, maybe everything you need to know for a long time. And we're gradually getting sophisticated, and I think we begin to lose that innocence in many ways. But 3D is a new way of bringing the audience into a theatrical event, and the innocence of experimental dramatic happening, storytelling. I think it's a very exciting new chances for us to bring the audience into the theater. When I get a chance, when I can afford it, I'll try it again and learn some more.
Thank you. Quinta pregunta, Daniela Guzmán, de Rock 101.
Hola, bienvenido a México. La primera pregunta viene también siendo sobre los formatos. Ahora que ya probaste el 3D, ¿qué opinas sobre el formato de 48 cuadros por segundo? Si sería una opción viable para tu siguiente producción. También quería felicitarte por tus nominaciones en los Globos de Oro y de la película. ¿Qué opinas al respecto de ellas y si crees que estas nominaciones abren la puerta hacia el Oscar? Y finalmente, ¿cómo crees que el Internet le está dando la bienvenida a esta nueva película, sobre todo en América Latina? ¿Crees que sea un factor influyente para que la gente vaya a verla? Gracias.
I think this is an unusual movie. I'm very proud of it. I hope it. I carry this for a long time. I carry this anxiety. How will people take it, or they just think it's a strange thing? And it is so expensive. Not only I worry about how you play for the mass audience, because it should be a big movie. It's like a pie. It shouldn't be our house, but at heart it is. How do I keep the balance? So that troubled me for a long time. I think it's playing well so far. It's very encouraging, not only the awards. And now I witness how they play, not in America, but outside of America. I just said, Asia play a lot better than in America. They embrace different things. I hope here people embrace it, but hopefully for different reasons. I think movie business is changing. I hope this is part of that change. From what I gather, it's really encouraging. But it's not like I don't know. Go back to the first question. It's almost a philosophical question I don't have to answer because it's still happening. But I think what I saw is very encouraging. It's heartwarming to me. I don't feel as long as I felt for the last 3 years. I'm sorry, what was the first question about 3D?
De los 48 cuadros, ¿no?
Sí, please remind me.
Sí, ¿te gustaría, ahora que ya utilizaste el 3D, hacer tu siguiente producción en 48 cuadros por segundo y cuál es tu opinión sobre este formato.
48 frames. When you have something new, you communicate with audience with language that's not established yet. The most inspiring part of 3D to me is that because it's new, it inspires me to think, let me question how we see things. Because when we have two cameras showing the same thing, that's a new experience, but the camera sees what it is, the truth. It's like the second story of the movie. But how we see things is we put images in our head, and we see in our mind's eyes that associate with our habits. I think a lot of new media happens. I think they may be a good idea because maybe it's been ahead of its time. People are not used to it. I heard the initial, I have not seen 48 frames. It seems to be a good idea because when I shot 2D with two cameras, when you move the camera, there's a lot of, it's easier to catch up the jittering. It started. That's more prominent. But when I try to solve it, I have to open up the shot a little bit so I can pick up more images. But when you do that, I pick up more motion blur. Movies like this. When you pick that up, it's very hard to see his eyes. When people in quick movement, like, constantly I have to rock the boat. It's in movement, I cannot see the actor's eyes. In a scene like the girl dancing, I have to ask her to slow down. She was like indignant. Like, I'm good at this, I can do better than that, but I asked her to slow down, otherwise I could not see her eyes, her expression. It seems like 48 frames is a good compensation for that, but because it's more real, it looks more like television. And you associate television with mediocre to bad filmmaking. You associate the worst media, movie, with good filmmaking, with art. So in your mind, you don't like it. That's why it's suspect. So this is a very tricky question. When you have something new, you always face that. Are you ahead of the time? I think 3D in general is like that. I think it's a great way to watch movies, because we do have two eyes. But then it's not life, what you see. It's not how you see movies. You cannot touch the screen. The existence is something you cannot trust. In the mid-air, you're not associated that with movie yet. Because we have 2D movie for 100 years. So many great experiences associated with that. So when you have something new, you're not so sure if you embrace it or not. So that's a philosophical question. I think 48 is a good solution of some sort, but maybe we have not adapted it yet. But still, I have not seen it yet. It feels like a good idea to me. And this kind of thing will go on and on. I think we're in a transition. I will not say from 2D to 3D, because I hope they coexist, because 2D movie was so many great art. Our heart goes to it. But let's say that we don't compare this to, let's see it develop in its own way and see what happens. I think it's still early to tell. I think I'm in the frontier, but I'm treading it. That's why I want to keep trying. Maybe some will work, maybe some will fail, I don't know. But it's so interesting. Each time you go something new, you get in the essence of how we see things. You be challenged. You have to rethink things. I think that's really fascinating. It really puts doubt in your mind how we exist. It's like reading those existential books, like putting doubts in your mind. Why do we exist? Are we real? It's what we believe is real. It's actually real, or it's just fantasy in our minds. Then, if that's the case, are we really existing vision of screen?
Thank you. Siguiente pregunta, Héctor Pérez, de revista Sky.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenido a México. Mi pregunta es, esta película es un viaje de autodescubrimiento. Entonces quisiera preguntarle, ¿qué fue lo que usted descubrió sobre usted mismo como persona y como director al hacer esta película?
Well, that's a tough one. You know, I used to work with my collaborator, James Shanless, who's the head of Focus Feature. He worked on every movie I worked on. And for some reason, because this is a self-discovery, movie about self-discovery, about spirituality, about loneliness, about fear, about getting lost. So I choose not to work with him for this one. And I had to do a lot of producing job. In the past, being a director, I'm like, almost like an actor, right? I mean, a child's mode. The producer is dealing with the adult. So what I want is, I'm like a child, I want it. But now I'm taking more responsibility, and I carry this whole thing to Taiwan to produce it. You know, people go to Taiwan because of me, and Taiwan hosts this thing because of me. So a lot of things on my shoulder. So in some ways, I was really crushed. And also, I had to invent a new method to go about this movie. The regular method, even including like 2D, I could not pull it off. The regular method of dealing with water, I couldn't pull it off. I had to invent a new wave tank that was never done before to imitate the open ocean long wavelength surge. The surge is not wave. It's certainly not bathtub like how we used to see in movies. And I had to upgrade the digital work and deliver them in 3D, both animal animation, realistic animal animation, and water work. So it's a huge job. I'm very proud of myself and my team, but on the process, I felt I was paralleling Pai's journey to the ocean. There was a cruel examination of the second story, totally disillusioned to me, the complexity of the adult world, but there is also embrace of the fantastical world, adventure. So a lot of things put together. I felt like Pai's journey. I lost that zoo, that paradise, that innocence in many ways, but I also grew up a lot. I matured very late. I'm a late boomer. So at the age of 58, I feel like, I don't know, I just grew up a little bit, started to get a little mature. It's encouraging, but it's also saddening a little bit, because I wish I never grew up like Peter Pan.
Thank you. Siguiente pregunta, Mario Abner de Reforma.
Sí, con la programa. Sé que el presidente Barack Obama fue un gran admirador de la novela original de Marte. Quiero preguntarle si usted sabe si el presidente tuvo oportunidad de ver su película y qué opinó al respecto. Y la otra pregunta es saber cuántos animales reales participaron en la película. Creo que Richard Parker es un animal CGI, pero en cuanto al resto, ¿cómo fue eso? Gracias.
Well, yeah, Yamatel showed me the preaching letter. He sent it to him. We tried to arrange a screening for him at the White House, but when the movie came out, it was in the heat of election, so that didn't happen. I don't know up to this day he saw it or not. I haven't heard anything. I hope he liked it. We have 4 tigers. 23 shots of shooting those tigers made it into the movie. Actually, some of the shots were real tigers. And we shot numerous, because we have them, we shot numerous amount of references, which is it's a treasure to the animator. So they can animate the tiger not like themselves, not a projection of their own character, but real tiger references. So that's why it looks so real. So thanks to the real tigers. We have 4 of them. 3 of them French, 1 Canadian. Very fortunately, we had the best trainer in the world, which is a Frenchman. He taught a lot about what tiger is about. Great learning process, even like in making the movie. I learned a lot from the guy and the tiger themselves too. We had one hyena. She's my favorite. She let me touch her. I'm the only one she let me touch. And she squeezes with the really ugly smile. Very neurotic animal. And that's all we have. Some of the zoo animals, of course, they're really real. We shot at zoos. There's no zebra. There was no orangutan. We modeled from real animal, but what you saw is completely CG. Flying fish, tuna, no, there are no real ones. We just throw rubber fish at pie, and then the rest of the CG. Oh well. What do you think?
Thank you. Siguiente pregunta, Jorge Caballero de la Jornada.
Por acá. Buenos días. La primera pregunta sería, ¿qué comentarios le han hecho de su película? Dos, si usted está consciente de la voz creativa que le habla en la cabeza para filmar cosas, para elegir cosas, para descartarlas, para parar, para continuar. Y la tercera, ¿dónde cree que está el corazón de esta película?
¿Puedes repetir la segunda?
Que si está consciente de esa voz creativa en la cabeza que le habla, para dirigir, cuando está dirigiendo en su obra, si está consciente de esa vocecita, como aquí digamos, el consciente le damos esa voz, Pepe Grillo, ¿no? Que está aquí adentro.
That's very difficult to answer because it will take a very long time. And from day to day, from week to week, things change based on what I read. Because it's still in the process being revealed to the world. I think the initial reaction to the movie were very positive. I would say 80-90% were positive. Respond, and then there's cynicism. It's a mix, so it's very hard to answer. And I have a feeling, after all, I'm a very Eastern director, I'm an Asian director, because the way Asian, from India to China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, they respond very much to how I want to make the movie. It's just naturally. Of course, this is a movie that generates philosophical thoughts and different feeling and spirituality. People stay in different places. So I think myself, as I make the movie, there's my preferences, my take on the book. But then I have to make ways to every possible kind of people I can think of. So from every which direction, you can round it up. So actually that's a very difficult task to do. Normally, you tell a story, you flow the emotion, it's linear, but this is not. This is more like designing a video game. You have to play it. And I know how I want to play it. And there's constant voice, how I connect to God. Or there are times I feel lonely because God doesn't give me an answer when I'm in difficulties, when I'm in confusion. At times at night, I'll be wrecked. This is a long process, long struggle. A lot of difficulty are not just difficulty, they're confusing in my heart. Like, it connects to why do I exist, my doubt, myself. Physically survive is actually the easier part for Pi. If you're smart enough, if you're diligent enough, if you're brave enough, you can find certain answers to survive, keep your head above water. But after a while, when you come, for me, it's making movie in physical terms. How do you make those waves? Little by little, they're difficult, but they can be done. How do you direct a young actor? How do you deal with the tiger? How do you, tediously working on those images digitally? But to me, it's the doubt, why we accept the ending that's the most difficult. You can feel very disoriented. And at that time, you have to think about all fronts, like how people might think from the Western front, from the Eastern front, from the Indian front. And then it's not like Indian all think the same, they're different. So I try my best to think for everybody, all the possible main directions, and try to make it work. If people want to believe in the first story, and think the second story is just a way to be a regular Japanese investigator, how does this work? For the faithful, how does it work? For atheists, how do they work? Then there's a brutality, how do I want to do it? If people like the brutality, I have to give them enough. If people don't like it, no. The brutality of the shutdowners sensitive, tender feelings. If they go with tenderness, how do I do it? So it's the ultimate. I was walking on tightrope the whole time. I do hear voices from time to time, but then I have to examine. It's not like there's a voice talking to me and then I go. It's not like that. I think constantly in doubt and very sensitive about the difficulties of what it tells you, and have great respect on that. It's really the essence of making this movie. It's very hard to express. The answer really relies on how people respond to it, and I saw so many kind of response, and they're all learning process to me. To me, I have a delivery day. But to myself, the delivery day of this movie is not over yet. I'm still learning. I hope it matters a month, things, or sometimes 10 years when I make a movie that can generate different thoughts. Sometimes 10 years before I realize what that is. That's my personal journey. I don't know if that answers your question, but your question made me think of those things.
Siguiente pregunta, Ivette Salgado de Milenio.
Soy la Mirada del Diario de México. Señor, me gustaría preguntarle, en todas sus películas hay personajes muy filosóficos, y bueno, también es el caso, pero me gustaría saber cómo es que se logra tener personajes que lleguen a tener universalismo, que sean universales, personajes que sean universales, teniendo en cuenta que a veces tienen que ver esa visión de culturas muy diferentes a las que nosotros vivimos también en Estados Unidos y aquí en México. Y por otra parte, me gustaría saber su opinión respecto al 3D, si hace falta todavía entender todas las posibilidades que puede haber 3D en el cine. Gracias.
First question. Let me answer your second question. Yes, I do, but I think audience, it's not your job to pick up a new cinematic language. You have to be pitched and react. That's your job. So I think the media of three-dimensional movies should continue to develop. It will be better technically. It improves so fast these days. And then it should be much cheaper. There should be more filmmakers, interesting filmmakers picking up and picture different things. And giving some time, you will do your work and you'll do your learning, adaptation, and your feedback. So it's a mutual effort from audience to filmmaker, filmmaker to audience. It's going to take a little while before that language is established. That's how I feel about it. That's a very difficult. When I see Pi, when I saw the actor, you have to work along with that. Your philosophical point of view, all you want to say has to show up on that boy. So I pitch him. He will act, will photograph, some will work, and I look around, see if people react to him. There's no method saying that if you do this or that boy will come to life. You have to see what he means, what his looks like, what kind of reaction it generates that stimulate people to think of. And remember there's a boat that sings named Simson. The boat's named Simson. That means shrinking. In the Judaism, there's a theory in Kabbalah school of teaching that God is perfect. He's this light and energy, but in creating the world, he has reduced himself to degrade himself to associate with the imperfect world. So I took that hint in order to, pi is everything, it's perfect, it's a circle, it's everything. But in order to make a movie and communicate to the audience, I have to shrink it, I have to make it less perfect. First of all, he has to be that actor, that young actor. Then I have to see certain plot that will make the movie flow. It has to have a linear, because that's how you watch a movie. You follow one thing after another. So I struggled for a long time to have a linear structure up to before the second story comes out, and that's the most difficult part. To make a long story short, from scene to scene, they have to be good movie. They have to come to terms with the audience, what they expected. All formulas, adventure stories, storytellings. When a person introduces to the other, they have to be engaging, they have to be fascinating. So that flows all the way to the end of the first story. Then I think it's tricky to bring the second one. And when the second one comes out, that makes you have doubt on everything come before that. I think at that time the actor's performance is really crucial. There's no certain formula, just keep hitting until there's one take. I know it has sort of everything for everybody. So trial and error, that's what filmmakers can do. If there's a method, a formula that we can solve things, nobody will lose money, every movie will be successful. So you just have to try and see what works. And even if something works, still it works for somebody, it doesn't work for somebody else. Now you guys ask me questions, I don't really have answers. This is a really, really hard thing to do. Because that doesn't play by the method and formula, because it contradicts it toward the end. So I think make it there's a chance that the emotion has to flow. You have to give the chance that he has his family. In the book, it's everywhere. Every point he made, he has a character, but I could not do that to the movie. I have to consolidate to his father, mother, and his brother, and the zoo he lives in, and his school. I have to shrink it so I can make a movie. I can make the story flow, I can make the emotion flow. When they both sing, you carry some with that established with you to the journey. During the journey, it has to be an adventure story. I have to borrow an adventure story as a formula. And at the end, I'm at a loss. I'm to struggle to keep the audience inside the theater, not drifting out or getting angry. So little by little. I think at the end, having sympathy with this boy solidify his performance, whatever he can project and be recognized as a single person, not every person, is important. So your emotion, you're still fixating this one person. There's one spot, a couple of lines, the older Pai tells, he's speaking for everybody. That's when he says, so go with God. And I think the actor now is so beautiful. I think to me, he's just working every front. I tried twice, I shot her twice. I don't need 2 takes. I shot and put a movie together, I had to shoot. I have to do a reshoot. I tried numerous times, and there's one take. I think that has some magic, that has everything, I believe.
Siguiente pregunta. We're going to have 2 more questions and we're done. Si vamos a tener 2 preguntas más, únicamente porque ya se nos acabó el tiempo. Continuamos con Memi Trejo de Sion Noticias.
Hola, mi primera pregunta es cómo trabajar con Gerardo Paquero y si me pudiera contar alguna anécdota durante el rodaje.
With who? Yeah, to me, it's pretty obvious. The writer, Yamatel, has some complex with French Canada, French India, of all places in India, Pondicherry, and there's Dissimata as a heaven, and the French cook as a hell. I don't want to get it complex, but it's there in the book, and I have to use it. And I also I grew up in Taiwan. I can associate a place being colonized, that complexion, with that cultural, political dominant force that runs around your life. I could very much associate with that identity issues, drinking issues, and so on and so forth. So I decided to go ahead to actually see the French chef, and he only has one scene. So it'll be my luck, which I got, to have somebody like Jean Depardieu, not only a great actor and French movie star. He's iconic in the French. In the 80s and 90s. I think every French movie I saw was him. He's iconic to the French. So I asked him, I sent the script, I met him in Paris. He has a cast on his foot. He rode a motorbike to the hotel, and he talked like a crazy man. He said, "I'm not going to crew anymore in my career. I just want to be in an interesting project. This is really interesting. I love your Brokeback Mountain. It's a done deal. I'm in." So it was like a dream. And he stayed in Taiwan for a week, and it was even the beginning of the shoot. The first week we shot it. So that scene, it took just a day. We'll rehearse it. I said, no, there's only one reason, because that's a symbolic character. And he just hates method acting. So it's like, so he totally despises it. So that was good for me. And I said, there's only one reason why a Frenchman could for Taiwanese sailor in the Japanese boat, no criminal, to show us what your country has worse to offer. And he's just going, it was like this. Instantly gets it. He showed me a look, and I said, yeah, it's like that. It's okay. And there we go. And he was just brilliant. The whole shooting, he was very directable, but he was kind of everywhere. The continuity was a little mess, but that was okay. He was just brilliant. I think he's the kind of person who can show one brief scene in the beginning and at the end play a pivotal factor in a movie. So I was very grateful that he promised to do this in that fashion. And also he's a great sport. We have a brief scene of them escaping. So all day long, it's a very difficult scene, technically. We have this huge set, the size of this room, that was sitting on the big gimbal. We were locking it, and the boat was dangling, the light bulb was dangling in the set, and he stayed there. And it's pretty heavy. It's very difficult for him to go up and down that boat. So all day long, he didn't want to get off. You're just sitting there. Most of the time, we're waiting, getting the gears done, and he's wet. Didn't complain, just keep cracking jokes all day long. So I was very thankful for his involvement. It was really my honor, because I looked up to him from student days. I was looking up to him as one of the idol.
Última pregunta. Emiliano Ortiz de Camino 3.
Hola, bueno, muchas gracias por venir, muchas felicidades por la película. Creo que algo importante es la fotografía. Creo que Claudio Miranda fue el que hizo la fotografía. Primera pregunta es cómo se da esta química. Y la segunda, creo que adaptar una película más de fantasía es difícil, pero si usted al filmar algo en la película, si algo en edición se quedó fuera, y también adelantándome un poco al estreno, no sé, en Blu-ray o DVD, ¿qué va a venir en esos formatos?
only a few examples of live action picture done in 3D. Claudio was one of them. He did Trump right before our movie. And artistically, he's a David Fincher guy. That was great. He did shot Benjamin on it. And also, this is the first time I shot digital camera. And it fits all the, he's a pretty obvious choice. And he's a Chilean, grew up in LA. And communication is pretty smooth. He talked a lot about 3D, what 3D should be doing. I want to, of course, take a different direction than how Trump did. So technically, I think getting as good advice as possible working with him. And aesthetically, he's pretty great. He's never done a big water movie, so what equipment to use. We have to guess a lot. I'm very thankful he was his idea to bring the spider cam, the camera they use for football stadiums, because we have this huge, elongated wave tank. The biggest arm we can get is going so far. So a lot of the shooting we use the camera hang on all sides and getting down deep and using a remote head to capture a lot of the shots. That was his idea. And it's big lighting sources. Because we're doing the ocean, and we have this big wave tank setting up, and all the walls besides it. And it's very technical involved. In shooting the movie, Bill Weston-Hoffer, the visual effects supervisor, has a lot to do with making the movie. So because 2 years later, when we start shooting, he has to deliver the pictures. So we talk, we have a lot of meetings, shot by shots, what the end result might be, and we go backwards from there. So his lighting has to light the end result. There's a lot of guessing, a lot of educated guess, experience, and his talent, and his artistry will come to work for some future pictures that work with visual effects. So for visual effects, he has to be very apt, very knowledgeable, and in pre-visualization of what's going to look like in the future. Unlike dramatic shooting, what you like, what you see is what it is. You can judge, you get feedback from there. So you have to work for future pictures. So that's quite abstract and very technically involved. What to avoid technically, what to go about in little details, where to put the green screen, what might be the rebound, it goes on and on and on. And he's a fantastic cinematographer in that way. Not only artistic, but technically very aware. So that's Claudia. What's the other question?
¿Qué podemos esperar de special features cuando salga esta película en Blu-ray o DVD?
I think we have a good one. We shot it on making, how every little things were made, the process. We all talked about it. I think it's a good one. The making, and we also have 5-6 DVD scenes. Some are actually expensive ones, but finally I cut them. And it's a digital, like how I imitate the tiger. Some big scenes I get cut out for this flow of the story or emotion, which is a pity to me. So that I think it's a good one. I think you can like it. And somebody asked me the part of the movie. It's very hard to know what it is. I would say embrace the unknown, as the Chinese Taoist philosopher would say, because that's kind of the essence, the chaos, the unknown is the essence of our life. We pretend we're civilized, we pretend we have logic, because that makes us feel safer. So we have to but anything we think is truth might be just a statement, not the real truth. The real truth is, it's a mystery. So at heart, I think I'm trying to embrace mystery And I hope I share that experience with the audience, and I hope they embrace the mystery in very different ways. Some will be like me, some will be different. But that's something I project. I hope the audience like it.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. We're finished.